We're going to start off with a quick coin toss, and with the coin toss, we're going to, whoever is going to start with their opening. Each candidate will have 5 minutes to do that, and then after that, we're going to turn it into the questions, and when we have the questions, each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to those questions, to the question. And at this point, I'm going to do the coin toss. I would say, because we do have people physically in the room, that we ask that you guys do not refrain from talking, because we do have an audio. We want to make sure we have the best experience for those who are watching online. So we do want to make sure that we don't have discussions in the background, no applauses, no everything. We're going to keep that quiet, and we're just going to hear the question, the answers from your candidates. I know some of you all already have candidates that you might, that you have already picked, and we want to make sure that when you have those, that you don't go and start yelling, screaming when they're talking, or even challenging them. That is we're not doing that today. So please respect the rules. All right, so we're going to start. Now we are at, just checking the time here. We are at 6:08, but we're going to start now. I'm going to ask, we're going to do a coin toss, so yell out, what's your pick? All right, so here we go. Tails it is. All right, so acting Mayor Medlock, you will start, and you have, and let me just start, I'll get my timer, 5 minutes. And before you start, I want to make sure that the candidates understand that we have 3 signs here. The 1 minute mark, I'm going to put this up, and then 30 seconds, I'll let you know when it's 30 seconds and when it's time. Okay? All right, and we are now hearing Acting Mayor Medlock.
Thank you very much, Walla. I do appreciate you taking the time, and the community taking time to listen to what we have to say about the community. I truly appreciate the residents coming out and being a part of this forum to discuss this. For those who don't know me, I am from Georgia. I am from Folkestone, Georgia, 2 hours outside of Savannah. It's a small city that I was raised in, and I was raised to take care of the community. You can say I come from a village of individuals who absolutely loved one another and made sure that we had everything that we needed. When I moved to District Heights, I felt that sense of family. And feeling that sense of family, I wanted to do my part as a public servant, to work in our city, to do the work, and to bring back that Georgia feel. I've been a public servant for the last 27 years, both professionally and personally, and I consider myself a servant leader. I wanted to live in District Heights because I found people in this community that cared and wanted to move the city forward. I have served as Commissioner for Ward 1, Vice Mayor, and now the Acting Mayor of this great city of District Heights. And I want to continue to work and do the job for you. There are 3 main topics or priorities that I would like to focus on in this next 2 years. And those are infrastructure, public safety, and of course, emergency response. First, and focusing on infrastructure. The problem is that we have so many issues that I hear that residents talk about: potholes, sidewalks, trees, and technology. Over the last year, we have secured, over the last 3 years actually, we have secured over $60,000 to work out infrastructure and public works through a phased process. And that phased process is getting us work done within our communities. We have done this by working together with grant funding from the county, state, and other officials, and we will continue to do that work in the future. So it's all about grant funding and getting the proper leadership on board. Public safety, we need leadership that is community focused and culturally sensitive to the needs of our community. We will hire a police chief to provide a solid foundation for police department that embraces community policing. We will continue to work together as a commission to make this happen. Also, emergency response. We all know that we're in the midst of a pandemic. COVID-19 has stopped us in the tracks and has created a watershed moment for us in our lives. The first thing I did was in March when I heard about the COVID, we were all gripped with this idea, was to move quickly with a phase 3 closing of our city, but did it where we maintained continuity of essential government resources and services, and we will continue to do that. We have fed over 1,000 people since the pandemic occurred here in the city of District Heights, giving out hygiene items, gift cards, and hot meals. I'm excited to have this opportunity to answer your questions so I can earn your vote. Thank you.
All right, now we will turn it over to Commissioner Miller. 5 minutes.
Good evening, all. Thank you for coming out tonight. My name is Commissioner Cynthia Miller, and I'm the Commissioner for Ward 1. I have been a Commissioner since 2014. I am now in this phase of thinking about how we're going to move our city forward. I've actually lived in the city for 24 years. 2015, I was a fellow graduate with the Academy for Excellence in Local Governance with the University of Maryland Municipal League. I am a commissioner of the Prince George's County Cable Television Commission. I am co-chair of the Municipal Census 2020 Complete Count Committee. I'm a former president of the Prince George's County Municipal Association, which includes 27 municipalities in Prince George's County. I was actually a secretary and vice president of Prince George Municipal Association. Also, I've chaired the Grab and Go Hot Meals at Woodland Springs in conjunction with Prince George's County, World Central Kitchen, and Woodland Springs, along with volunteers in District Heights. I also volunteer with my husband at Woodland Springs, and we contribute to local churches in the area to help them with their food pantries. We are members of First Baptist Church of Highland Park. We also partnered with First Baptist of District Heights. My husband spearheaded this to provide food for their pantries ever since 2014, and we're still providing food for that program. As I think about the vision of our city, I'm very passionate, committed to our city. That's important because of the pandemic and other issues that we have incurred as residents of City of District Heights. We need a strong leader. We need a strong mayor to take us forward. And my vision for 100 days would be install a human resources specialist, install a community outreach coordinator, and that will help with our COVID-19 plan for the city. Update the city charter, implement the new city website with an e-newsletter, hire a permanent police chief, conduct more online Zoom meetings, promote a safe election process, establish a citizens Advisory Committee. And also give my suggestions on the COVID-19 pandemic plan for rules and regulations for the city of District Heights. We are all in this together, and with my vision, I know that we can make a better city, and we can be a stronger city, and we can also make sure that our vision will be the best vision moving forward for the city of District Heights. So I look for your support, and I look for your vote, and I look for your leadership in helping me lead the city of District Heights. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Miller, for your introduction. So now we're going to go into the questions. As I stated before, each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer the question. What we're going to do is that I'm going to open it up and start with a question. And because you started the first time, we're going to have Commissioner Miller start with this question. I want to note, I did look on Zoom, and some people are saying that they can't see certain candidates. That's why we're asking everyone to do gallery view. And if you're in the room, that shouldn't matter because you're actually watching. But for those at home, please do gallery view, and that way you can see everyone, because it's not going to go between, it's not going to actually go between slides of different people because of the fact that we have muted everyone. So please do gallery view. Okay, so we will now start with our first question. As mayor of the city of District Heights, what is your plan to encourage collaboration among stakeholders to ensure that everyone can work together to ensure progress for the city of District Heights? And I will start your question first, Commissioner Miller.
First of all, I will call all of our stakeholders, our faith-based community, our businesses, our state delegation, our county council, and any other nonprofits to the table so we can come up with a plan with our residents to vision how are we going to move our city together and how are we going to move forward. But as mayor, everybody comes to the table. We are a team, and that's how I would move forward.
Okay, your question, Acting Mayor Medlock?
Can you repeat your question for me really quick?
All right, no problem. The question is, as mayor of the city of District Heights, what is your plan to encourage collaboration among stakeholders to ensure that everyone can work together to ensure progress for the city of District Heights?
Absolutely, thank you for the question. Collaboration is one of the things that I championed the most. Ever since becoming a commissioner, the vice mayor, and the acting mayor, I have worked with county council. I've worked with those outside the city to bring in resources for our city. There's two things that we have to work on and see. There's proof of work and there's proof of stake. Proof of work are the things that we do as a community, the things we get, that we make happen, the things that we produce, getting collaborative efforts with the local mayors, local council members, and actually building quantitative relationships. And that proof of stake, we all have a stake in what we do and the work that we do here in the city of District Heights. And as a leader here in the city of District Heights, working with our partners, both for-profit, non-profit organizations, to bring in resources for our community is something that I will continue to do and continue to champion. There are so many relationships that I've built already. One, and I'll talk about it more, is the relationship with unions and the relationships with other organizations, Prince George's County organizations, to bring in work and jobs for our young people. And I will continue to work on those relationships as the next mayor of the city of District Heights.
Many residents are concerned with the clarification, the revision, and amending the city charter. Many would like to know clarity about who is the authority, who will run the city. How do you plan to champion the revision of the city charter? And this time, we are starting with Acting Mayor Medlock.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this question. The charter is something that, when I came on in 2016, became the chair of the rewrite of the charter committee. The charter hasn't been rewritten in the last 30 years. And to really move the city forward, the city did not look like it did 30 years ago. So in getting that rewrite charter, all the commission voted to have me lead that at that point in time. And it's important because we want to have a charter that looks and reflects what we are doing here in the city of District Heights today in 2020. About a year ago, the rewrites were being done. There was a charter committee to put together to get this done, and we are continuing to move that charter forward. It's important because if we get the charter done sooner than later, we can make the absolute results that the city needs for the 21st century. So I will continue to work with the charter and the charter committee and the residents of the city of District Heights to rewrite this charter, starting with one area at a time so we can get it right. So I am definitely committed to doing that. And if the residents of the city of District Heights want to be a part, we need that leadership from you also to come in to help with the rewrite of the charter. Thank you all.
Commissioner Miller, your question? No problem. The question was, many residents are concerned to clarify, revise, and amend the city charter. Specifically, many would like to see clarity about who has authority and who is committed to run the city. How do you plan to champion the revision of the city charter?
Thank you for that question, and that is a great question. The charter is very outdated, and I would have to make a correction. The commission did not vote for Commissioner Medlock to be over the charter committee. Mayor Sims, our former Mayor Sims, actually appointed him as commissioner chair of the charter committee. And when the other commissioners tried to be a part of that committee along with some hand-picked residents, we were not informed on how we would move forward. There was some discussion, but how do we move forward from that? Because I'm not here to blame anyone, but you gotta own up to, we're at 2020 and you were chair at 2016. So 2 of the items that you did work on was the voting age, changing the voter age to 17 years of age to vote in the city of District Heights. And then the last one was if something should happen to the mayor, that the vice mayor would automatically become mayor. And those 2 items, from what I heard from the committee, that they did not agree on those items. So moving forward, I would appoint someone else to be in charge of the charter committee. Thank you.
In fairness, parties have agreed, and I did not mention this at the beginning, but at this point we probably should open this up. Parties did agree that if each candidate should mention the name of the candidate in their response, that the candidate would have 1 minute to respond. And in that case, if we do that, since Acting Mayor Medlock was mentioned in this response, we will give him only 1 minute to respond to the statement of Commissioner Miller.
Absolutely, thank you so much. In 2016, I came in as a commissioner for 2 years, I learned the charter. I studied the charter to understand what I wanted to, or we as a city needed to rewrite. So in 2016, I did come in as a commissioner. In 2018, I started rewriting with residents here in the city the charter moving forward. There were impediments to getting this passed, but we are moving forward. I am the current chair of the charter committee, and I will continue to work with the commission to move this charter forward.
30 seconds.
And selecting, thank you so much, and selecting new membership to be a part of the charter committee. I see some members here in this audience that I would love to have be a part of this, because you are community members and community stakeholders, and I would love to have the input of the community at large. So thank you so very much for that question, Juan.
All right, sorry, my timer is going off. The next question is about the police department. How will you address appointing a new police chief, and how will you address the city's efforts to hire new officers? So I will start that. I think we started with Acting Mayor Medlock last time. So we are now starting with Commissioner Miller. 2 minutes.
First of all, I would make sure that we do a survey throughout the city for the residents to have their input on what it is that they want to see in a chief of police for the city of District Heights. I would also have that chief of police go out and recruit police officers to help move our agenda of making our city safe, also including community policing, and making sure that they have the proper training and making sure that they have the proper oversight when it comes to personnel matters. We need to make sure that they're safe, and we need to make sure that they understand with this pandemic, things are totally different. So we need to make sure that we have a relationship with our police and our residents to avoid police brutality. Thank you.
Acting Mayor Medlock, your question, 2 minutes.
Thank you so much again. We are commissioners, we are legislators, and by the very virtue of being legislators, we have to lead. The community voted us in to represent them, and as much as collaboration as I would love to have with everybody or every commission, I would hope that we can make something happen sooner than later. And why I say that is that we need a police chief now. We can't hold off for another 2-3 months. We can actually do that now. If we come together collaboratively as a commission and as a city and get somebody to protect our city, to have leadership, strong leadership, and true police, community policing. I organized most of my life with the National Black United Front and other organizations that have boots on the ground continually, so I understand what community policing is. I, for 27 years, have worked with national security, physical security, so I know exactly what to look for. And I know our residents have to want our leaders to step up and really get something done, and not necessarily talk about what we can do long term, but what can we do right now to protect the interests of our residents. So that's what I would do as mayor, is to lead that particular effort to get it done, Wally. Thank you.
All right, so the next question also is about public safety. We received many questions about the fact that officers are not patrolling and responding to citywide complaints, and that there is a lack of relationship between the community and many of and the police department. So how will you address improving public safety and improving the relationship between the police department responding to complaints, responding to many of the concerns of the community when it comes to public safety. And I will start this time we are starting with Acting Mayor Medlock.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That's a great question. And one of the things that most residents don't know, if they didn't know, most of the police officers in the county are on something called a Signal 26. A Signal 26 is when they are able to stop and not have too much interaction because of COVID with the residents and those within the city. They patrol all the time with the support and help of the Prince George's County Police Department. We have absolute coverage of our city. The city is protected. There is a spike in crimes and crime, and there's a spike in petty thefts throughout not only the county, but throughout the country because of all the things, the civil unrest that's happening within our city. So our officers are there, they are vigilant. There can be improvements, and we all know that. But through community policing and getting those residents involved also, we can absolutely get the work done. But we have done a great job, but we can do greater. So getting our police department beefed up is the order of the day. And as soon as I become the mayor, I will make sure that happens and we kind of move our city forward in a safe practice. Thank you all.
Okay, Commissioner Miller? No problem. Repeat the question. We received many questions about citizens concerned about officers not responding to citywide complaints, the lack of relationship between the police department and the community. What are you going to do to ensure that there is improved the relationship between the police department and the community in addressing the public safety concerns of the residents? 2 minutes.
First of all, we need to hire a chief of police that will be a leader for the city of the District Heights and actually show an example on how to police our community. We did have community policing. We did have police going to certain districts that were inside of the city of District Heights that they were assigned to, so they would get a chance to know the activities that go on in that particular area in the city. But when the chief of police was fired and some other commissioners voted to make a sergeant an acting chief of police with not enough experience to move our city forward, it just seems as though we went backwards. So as mayor, I would make sure that we do not have commissioners and staff involving themselves in the work of the police department. We have to continue to make sure there is protocol in place, and as mayor, I would continue to make sure that relationship is strong for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller. So now the next question, and we will start this time with Commissioner Miller since we started the last question with Acting Mayor Medlock. What is your plan to improve transparency and accountability within the city of District Heights as mayor? 2 minutes.
It's a delay in my mic. Oh, here we are. As mayor, I would make sure that we abide by the Open Meetings Act to make sure that the residents know when there is a meeting and they are notified in the proper manner and timely manner to be a part of a meeting and to know what is being discussed. We cannot discuss other business unless we open the meeting to the residents first. And if there's personnel matters or other matters that we can't speak, then we go into a closed session. And I am in the frame of mind of saying our meetings are scheduled the first Thursday of the month, the second Tuesday, and the fourth Tuesday are our work sessions. And we need to make sure that residents know when these meetings are going on and that we do not change the times of these meetings so they are not able to participate. And I really have a problem with that, because if we stick to those times of 7 p.m., the first Thursday, the second Tuesday, and the fourth Tuesday of the month, that will be transparency and accountability and making sure that those minutes are on our new website so you will know what's going on. Thank you.
Okay, Acting Mayor Medlock, your question, 2 minutes.
Absolutely. When we talk about transparency and accountability, first we really need to address our internal communication. We need to address the things that happen within our own house, within our own commission. We need to be transparent with each other as a commission, first and foremost. So I think if we talk about transparency, we need to talk about all transparency within our own house and outside in the community, because we are a reflection of what and how we lead. So I think we really need to start with ourselves as a commission, and as the leader and as the acting mayor currently, every day I strive for that transparency with our own commission so we can move our city forward in the best way possible. Having things talked about in the open is fine, but what are we talking about internally? I think we need to start responding to how we do business internally first, because people see sometimes the dysfunction, if you will, of our commission, and we really have to start really working together and help start building some collaborative efforts throughout. So we really have to move our city forward, and it starts with this commission.
30 seconds.
Thank you so much. I'm done.
I'm sorry. Then he did not mention your name, so you cannot rebuttal. Okay. Now we are heading into the next question, which is along the same lines. The next question is, how do you plan to address ethical concerns for city officials and staff? And we will start this time with Acting Mayor Medlock. Oh no, this is Commissioner Miller. We will start this time with Commissioner Miller. And you want me to repeat the question? I'll repeat the question. How will you address ethical concerns for city officials and staff?
First of all, we would have to start with a new committee, because it seems like the ethics committee, they actually resigned from their position, and I understand it was probably due to the activities that were going on with the former mayor. So, moving forward with this employee personnel handbook, we can create these ethical issues where staff are not in the middle of problems that they should not be. And we need to make sure that we reach out to the residents to recruit residents to be a part of this ethics committee. We really need to make sure that we have everything in place to move our city forward. If we have accountability, we won't have to worry about the transparency, because we will have this ethics committee in place to be able to help how we govern, and also make sure that our staff is doing the right thing at all times. Thank you.
Okay, Acting Mayor Medlock, it's your question. Do you need me to repeat the question?
Yes, really quick, thank you.
I will do that. How will you address ethical concerns for city officials and staff?
Absolutely. The ethical concerns, to address ethical concerns, we have to be ethical first and foremost. Again, 27 years of government military service that put me on the forefront of doing a job for the nation and our national security. Being the vice chair of the Human Relations Commission appointed by 2 county executives because of my responsibility and my ethics. I think that leaders choose leaders to lead. And with that, for me to be in this position with not only the city, but the county and our national security, that bodes to my ethics. And that is all I want around me. So once I become the mayor, once I am elected by the residents, I will make sure I have those around me who value those same ethics and accountability within this office in the city of District Heights. And if you cannot do that, then you need not be here. That is the rallying cry that I will have once that day comes, that I can lead the city forward. Thank you.
All right, so the next question, and we're going to be starting with Acting Mayor Medlock this time. How will you address staff accountability within the city of District Heights?
That's a very easy question. Either you're accountable or you go. This is not, this city, most of our employees are at will. That means that if you love your job, do your job. If you can't and you don't want to abide by the rules and regulations that are set forth by our charter, our ordinances, and our employee manual, then there's somewhere else that you can go. So that's for each and every staffer, and we have staff here in the building. I'm sure we have staff listening. But if you can't do the job that you are paid to do, then you need not be here. So we can't continue to ask from anyone what is ours anyway. To be accountable, to be ethical is a requirement, not an option. So we have to really start moving in that direction as a city, and it's always leading by example. Thank you all.
Okay, Commissioner Miller, it is your question. Do you want me to repeat the question? All right. The question is, how will you address staff accountability within the city of District Heights?
Well, ever since I became a commissioner in 2014, I noticed that there was no accountability in place, no systems in place for staff. And you really can't blame staff for that. You have to blame leadership for that. So I came up with updating our personnel manual, having a time and attendance system, which we don't have one in place, and also a human resources specialist to help our staff and to guide them and to offer workforce development training. So in order to keep your staff accountable, you have to give something to them, and you have to give them hope, and you have to have them to understand that customer service is very important, and that as commissioners, a mayor and a commissioner, we need to work together with our staff. And if we cannot help them, then we have to look at how do we move forward to make sure that we have staff that could perform the duties that we need with this ever-changing city where we could be the greatest. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to a different subject, and of course this time we are starting with Commissioner Miller. So your question is, What are your plans to improve services for seniors within the city of District Heights?
First of all, I would come up with a hotline for seniors. We now have a new telephone system. We can provide a hotline for seniors, or have a number where they can call to get information in a timely manner. We need to make sure that we can touch every senior in the city of District Heights. So due to the COVID-19, I have actually put in for a community outreach coordinator. And that coordinator will go out throughout the city to make sure that our residents are safe, and is there a way to communicate with them if they are not on the internet. We need to make sure that not everybody's on the internet, and we need to make sure that either they're a phone call away or a house visit away. So I will be providing those things for the seniors. Also, there is a program called Aging in Place. So with Aging in Place, there is a network of people that would help the needs of our seniors. And also, if they're looking for contractors or landscapers or volunteers to grocery shop for them, or if they need some assistance on outlaying their house so they can age in place. And there are several programs throughout the municipalities that we could mirror to make sure that we all can stay in our homes as we age. Thank you.
All right, Acting Mayor Medlock, your question. Do you want me to repeat the question?
No, I'm good. Thank you so much. One of the things with grassroots organizing and being a grassroots organizer is to be on the ground and to actually knock on the doors. Even through this COVID, and especially through the COVID, it's important that we reach out to our seniors and let them know that they are being thought of. One of the things we continue to do, and me and my team and a group of residents and community members are going to seniors' homes, knocking on their door and asking them what they need. Whatever they need, personal hygiene items, food, resources, and even a comforting ear. We have to provide that. We have to be a community that acts together in unity. One of the things that we continue to do, and we see it happening now with the constructions, is build a community center that's been talked about for the last 7 or 8 years, and it's now come to fruition. And I made sure I spearheaded that so we get the funds to make our senior center happen. And this is going to be a place where seniors can come and receive the resources and receive the things that they need from the community they have served and the community they pay taxes in. So we have to be very, very diligent as far as getting these resources to our seniors. Most of our communications are antiquated, and we need to really make sure that we get services to the seniors who need it the most. And we'll continue to do that as this pandemic continues.
Okay, the next question, sort of segue into that question, and since it will be your question first, Acting Mayor Medlock, in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, how do you plan to increase communication to the senior residents in District Heights?
Increasing communications with the seniors in District Heights, absolutely. It goes back to what was discussed earlier. We have to find out what is that need and how do we assess that need for our seniors. Our senior population is 38% senior population here in the city. Why did I know that? Because it's important to know how many seniors that we have to serve and protect. So with the 38% population of seniors, we have to figure out a way that for those who are not online, new websites cannot help that. If you're not online, you can't receive the services. So how do we make that happen? How do we provide new apps, working with the city of Sea Pleasant, for instance, and new technology by having cell phones that that every senior can have, by building relationships with other municipalities. They're already doing it. So we have to continue to work, knock on these doors, and really grind in order to get this, the information to our seniors. Also, we have to look at surveys. When we're in situations like this, we need that vital information from our seniors. So sign your name, give us your information, and when times come when you need resources, we will be there as a community to make sure it is happening and it is available. So we have to make a concerted effort, Walla, to make sure that our seniors are heard, and that once they are heard, we take the action to serve them properly. Thank you all.
All right, Commissioner Miller, is your question. Do you want me to repeat the question? Okay. In light of the COVID-19 pandemic, how do you plan to increase the communication to the senior residents within the city? 2 minutes.
With the CARES Act funding from the county, from the executive, the county executive, we received $365,000 to come up with a plan to help all of our residents through COVID, through various food programs and other resources throughout the city. And I did submit for a community outreach coordinator that will be working with our seniors to provide services and resources, along with working with the Department of Aging, to make sure that we are making sure that we give them all the resources and assistance that they need. So we're going to have to do some ground roots, going door to door to make sure that we could contact every senior and find out what their needs are, so we can make sure that they're safe and they will be able to live the life that they worked hard for. Thank you.
Okay, our next question is about our youth population in the city. And this will be starting with you, Commissioner Miller. What are your plans to improve the services for the youth within the city of District Heights? 2 minutes.
First of all, we do have some youth programs in the city of District Heights with our recreation department, but we can also expand with nonprofits that are offering services to our youth that we need to partner with. And also, we need to look at opening our recreation center on Saturday to give our youth more time in the city, on the grounds, where their parents pay tax dollars to enjoy the recreation center in the outer circumference of this building. But moving forward, we need to make sure that we partner where we're not trying to recreate programs. So bringing in stakeholders, nonprofits, where we could partner with to enhance the youth programs that we have. We have so many talented youths here in the city of District Heights, and I really would like to have it nourished more. And thank you.
Okay, Acting Mayor Medlock, is your question? Did you want me to repeat the question?
Not at all. Not at all. Thank you so much. I love this question because I've been involved with the youth in the city since I came. We have started the process already in establishing a youth advisory council. This is already in the making. It's made up of young people in the community to do what we can sometimes. We're not in the areas where our young people are. We need to meet them where they are and do the things that they ask from us as leaders. Also, we have so many programs that's happening all around us already. One with the District Heights Chiefs, they're doing some great work with our babies all the time with basketball, football programs. And we're going to start baseball program before COVID. There's the 100 Black Men who started here a mentoring program, which I am the leadership director over for Prince George's County. There's apprenticeship programs. There are boys, once again, there are the Boys and Girls Club, and there's so many things that are happening with our youth, but you have to be on the ground speaking to them to understand what the needs are. One of the things I always hear is that District Heights Chief, I hear a rich history about the District Heights Chief, and I want to continue to nurture that idea and that work that the Chiefs have put in for the past 30 or more years. But working with the youth is one of the things that I have done. I've mentored 6 young men in 6 years and watched them grow from 6th grade to high school graduation, and I'm proud of that, and I will continue to do more of that as mayor in getting our youth involved with the help of some great stakeholders who I see here in this room today. Thank you.
All right, and this next question will be starting with you, Acting Mayor Medlock. So how will you collaborate with the Prince George's County school system as mayor to improve the education of the children that live within the city of District Heights?
Absolutely. First, you got to support those who represent you. Those who are in the area. One of our school board members is Kay Alexander Wallace, who have come through here in the last few years. Sometimes we'll agree, sometimes we'll disagree, but understanding that they have to have support. So continue to support the Prince George's County school system as a whole. There's so many challenges that are happening now, online schooling and mixed schooling, and they're thinking about opening up the schools again in the midst of COVID in phase 2. And we sometimes have differences of opinions on how we feel, but at the end of the day, it's about support and it's about doing the right and correct thing. But our educational system is here in Prince George's County can sometimes feel strained, but I think what's happening, what COVID has done, is actually put us back in a position where we are focusing more on our young people and the quality of education and how do we get things done for our babies? How do we move things forward for our residents, not only here in the city of District Heights, but Prince George's County as a whole. So we need to continue to work with our stakeholders in education, Belinda Queen Howard and Edward Burroughs and all these names. I'm not going to name them all, but we need to make sure that they know we have their support and their back. So I want to continue to do that as the mayor and continue to have programs that are funded, continue to push the Boys Read program that happens at Spalding Library, and I believe it still happens online through the help of some courageous and steadfast individuals, like I said, some who are in the room today. Thank you all.
Okay, the question is now for Commissioner Miller. Do you want me to repeat the question? Okay, the question is, how would you, as mayor, how would you collaborate with the Prince George's County school system in improving the education for the children within the city?
As mayor, I will call a meeting with our county council, which is District 6, and our school board of education, which is District 6. And we will sit down and come up with a plan on how we can support our schools, and also reaching out to our volunteers, our residents. If we all come together, we can make it better for our school students and making sure that we are the backbone for our school system. I know it's challenging at times, but just think about when you send your child to school and now they can't go to school and they have to do online learning. And if, as a parent, you don't have discipline in making sure that your child is getting a proper education, you can imagine what these students are going through to be thrown into everything is online versus communication, face-to-face or hands-on learning. So we need to be very supportive of these students moving forward in Prince George's County all around. So whatever resources we have as mayor, I'll make sure we come to the table and come up with a way that we can support the school system. Thank you.
And this time we're going to start with Commissioner Miller. And the question is about economic development. What are your plans as mayor to address economic development and investments within the city? And make sure you even discuss possible annexation to the Marlboro Pike corridor. 2 minutes.
That's a great question, because every time I drive down Marlboro Pike, I see that SunTrust Bank sitting there for years and years. It's just an eyesore. And I look at some of our businesses, our small businesses on the Pike, where we need revitalization for them. When St. Paul's purchased the town center, which used to be the old Run and Shoot and a Giant, they are willing to come to the table with us to annex us in. They want to be a part of the city, but we have to really sit down and look at how would that really work for us. But it is a great relationship that we could make sure that we are benefiting from it and making sure that we are out there saying that it's time for change, because we are landlocked. So we're going to have to be creative and think outside of the box. And so we really need to make sure, in order to move forward, annexation is important, but we need to make sure that we find some grant opportunities for our businesses that are already in the area to make it more beautiful on Marlboro Pike, that we can take ownership and say that this is a part of the city of District Heights moving forward and being a part of a town center. I think that would be awesome. Thank you.
Okay, Acting Mayor Medlock, do you want me to repeat the question? All right, I will start. What are your plans as mayor to address economic development and investments within the city of District Heights? Please discuss possible annexation to the Marlboro Pike corridor.
Thank you so much for that. Economic development is extremely important. One of the things I want to mention is the endorsement that I received on July 1st from the Baltimore, D.C. Building and Trade Council. They represent laborers, electricians, carpenters, teamsters, and the whole gamut of 22 affiliate organizations which have apprenticeship programs in order to expand businesses here in our city. The building trade really focuses on how do we develop beyond ourselves and become larger than what we are. So having that positive relationship with that, by getting that endorsement, who are the building trades, have 25,000 members. This is the first municipal official in Prince George's County that they have endorsed. So apparently there's some work being done to expand the city of District Heights, expand Marlboro Pike and its corridors to do the work. Annexation is extremely important because we know we are 20747, which includes the city of District Heights, also Forestville, also Suitland. If something happens outside the borders of District Heights, they say it's District Heights' fault. Let's get that. Let's annex the city, these areas, so we can have control. And we'll go from a small city to a medium-sized city overnight, and we'll increase our grant funding from the county and state and federal government. So let's get things together. Let's get our house in order so we can have more and we can build more here in the city of District Heights. Thank you, Wanda.
The next question is for Acting Mayor Medlock as we starting with you first with this question. How will you engage in workforce development and career opportunities for the District Heights residents? 2 minutes.
Absolutely. One of the biggest things that we started already is having collaborative relationships with Employ PG County. Employ PG is a collaborative effort that will actually, the brick and mortar building would have been here this year, but due to COVID, things have been pushed back. Director Walter Simmons is director. I've actually had him here to talk to the residents and our youth about programming and being a part of that. Also, there is Jacob's Ladder, which is a junior workforce development organization. We have partnered with Jacob's Ladder as well. This is while COVID is happening, we're building partnerships with those organizations. And within the Employee Prince George's County, there's a KEYS program that allows for our junior workforce development and allows for our youth to be hired and trained, all this for free. So it's important that we continue to build relationships, but economic development and along with helping our young residents grow, have the jobs and opportunities that they need, is something that as leaders we should make sure we get done for our residents. Thank you, Walter.
Commissioner Miller, this is your question. Do you want me to repeat the question? Okay, so the question is, how will you as mayor engage workforce development and infrastructure for career opportunities for the District Heights residents? 2 minutes.
We have Prince George's Community College, which offers certification programs and job opportunities for our residents. And also, we have an employee, Prince George's, that's also spearheading job opportunities for our young people. We have to also look at stakeholders and partnering with them to make sure that we are steering people to the right avenues to make sure that they get the proper job training and workforce development. But as mayor, I would like to create a roundtable where we can constantly bring those partners to the table and talk about what it is that we need to do to help people get employment. Because as you know, since COVID-19, a lot of people are still waiting for their unemployment check. So we have to make sure that we are preparing people and then giving them a chance to think about maybe another career or maybe some type of certification program to move them forward. But as mayor, I will be at the table making sure that we provide the best information and job training for our residents. Thank you.
Okay, the next question goes back to some of the questions asked earlier, but it's more specific. So I'm definitely going to ask it because I do believe that it does provide a little more getting to a specific point that might not have been touched in the answers given before. So I will first turn this question to you, Commissioner Miller, since it's you're answering the question first this time. How will you as mayor create an atmosphere of unity among commissioners? 2 minutes.
Actually, I've been praying about this for some time now, because as commissioners, you all have elected us to do the work for you. And we need to make sure that we are working for you. It's not personal. We can't come into an office and not address the issues of the city or the residents and ignore what our residents want. So we have to make sure that, as mayor, we're going to come to the table. We're going to have new policies and procedures on how we conduct work as commissioners and how we get back to our constituents and making sure that we are transparent and there is accountability. Because if there's issues that we can't vote on, you need to know, because it's going to affect you. It's going to affect your taxes. So we have to be smart stewards on moving this city together and put the personal agendas aside and work together as a commission. And I plan to make sure that those policies and procedures are in place, that we're here to work. We're not here to like each other, but we are here to work for the residents of the city of District Heights, this great city, and they deserve better. Thank you.
Okay, Acting Mayor Medlock, do you want me to repeat the question?
No, I think I got it. I think the question is, what do we do as a commission, really, to move our city forward? I mentioned earlier that the residents feel the pulse of what's happening here in leadership. They put us here for a reason, and that's to do a job. We don't have to like each other, but we have to respect each other. I value all my colleagues, and I lead by example. I think President Obama, Michelle Obama said, when they take the low road, you take the high. And I not try to do that. That is the way I live my life, is taking the high road. So I will continue to use the example of being the example for my commission. And I know as leaders, we have to be on the front lines of everything. That includes leadership. So I want residents, I want you to hold us accountable. Always watch and pay attention to what's happening back here in this commission chamber. And don't let anything slide, but don't put your emotions in it, as we can sometimes do. Think things through and we can get things done. Thank you.
Okay, so the next question, of course, we will start with Acting Mayor Medlock. Now, some of the questions, we're now bringing questions from the audience directly. Now, some of you all have questions have been touched on, but now we're getting more specific, and I do think it's actually good to get more specific answers in light of some of the answers we heard already. So this question is about human resources. We talked about staff accountability earlier, but this specifically asks you, will you hire a human resources specialist for the staff and for the city? So can you answer to that?
Absolutely. Hiring a human resource specialist is important. I think most cities, municipalities have human resources of some sort. One of the things that human resource specialists or administrators can't do is make decisions for the city. Those are the jobs that we have to do as commissions and as mayors, commission and as the mayor of the city of District Heights. So looking into hiring someone to handle processes, we have a city manager that does that. We can also have more as far as vetting our employee manual correctly. But at the end of the day, we can't let a human resource specialist or personnel take away the job and the responsibility that we as a commission needs to do. So we need to first look at what we are not doing and how we can improve those processes. But yes, the human relations personnel is essential into getting certain things in order, and I'm in favor of doing that, but we have to assess everything before we just make a decision for someone to take the responsibility away from us. So that is the answer. Okay, Commissioner Miller, do you need me to repeat the question? Okay.
The question is that, and of course this is in light of some of the answers before, we talked about staff accountability earlier, but this specific question asks, will you hire, as a mayor, a human resources specialist? Can you talk and expand on that?
Like I said, since I became a commissioner since 2014, I advocated for a human resources specialist. I saw that there was a great need for one. I actually put in the budget for human resources specialists this budget period, and it got denied. And when we look at how are we going to help our staff, it's not taking away from our duties. We do not have the expertise for human resource specialists. I know at the end of the day, once the data is collected and we have to make a decision on employee, we want to make sure that it's done in a lawful, legal manner before we make decisions on an employee. If we don't have an expert on site, we will be looking at numerous lawsuits. So you do need a human resources specialist, because we have staff here that don't have the experience to help moving our staff together to make sure that we are safe as a city, where we're not vulnerable to lawsuits because of employees. So you definitely need that structure. But at the end of the day, we do vote on whether or not an employee stays or leaves. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to start this question with Commissioner Miller, and this is a specific question. And of course, again, we're going over questions that, and this is in response to some of the answers they heard earlier, but I do believe this is very specific. And in light of the past mayor's actions, there is a concern of integrity. And of course, I want you all both hear that concerns. We have had many residents talk about the concerns of integrity. So as mayor, how do you intend to rebuild the integrity of the city of District? It's an excellent question. 2 minutes.
It goes back to transparency and accountability. If you don't know what your commissioner or the mayor is doing, there is a problem, because there should not be any hidden agendas that we have. We should be very transparent. And if I find that someone is not being transparent, or they're abusing their position, or going out doing things that are unlawful, we will have that ethics committee in place to review. It won't be just there just to say we have one. We will be putting that ethics committee to work. But also, we need to make sure that as a mayor, that I make sure that everybody knows we're moving the city forward. We're not going backwards. And if you feel like you have to do something to gain for your own personal use or agenda, you don't need to be a commissioner. And with the transparency, it will come out. Thank you.
Acting Mayor Medlock, do you want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Well, this goes into some of the answers before we talked about transparency and accountability, but this question is specific to integrity. As mayor, how do you intend to rebuild the integrity of the city of District Heights? 2 minutes.
Thank you so much, Walla. I have to acknowledge that there was some big problems in the government in the past. I've been with the commission since 2016, less than 4 years. But the work that I've done shows that the integrity of the city is important. Being a good steward of the time, resources, and what the city residents give me to to work with, having me as a representative. Of course, last year I ran for commissioner and won because the residents believed in what I was doing. So to do the work for the last almost 4 years, to establish myself with the county, within the city, and the trust of all the local officials who have put their trust in me, we have to move every single thing we do forward, and we have to start with the example of self. So with that being said, I, along with the rest of the commission, have to move this city forward and cast off those things of the past, because we are not the same. And if we are not the same, we have to act the part and move our city forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now we're going to move to the next question, and this is kind of along with integrity, but I don't even think this is a good question. It's very specific. It's about the use of city vehicles. The specific question is, what is your position on the use of city vehicles for personal use? And also describe how you will track the use of the city's vehicles. 2 minutes.
It's a delay. Thank you so much, Walla. City vehicles, per what we have practiced in the past, employees have had a chance to use the city vehicles, those who are staff, those who are elected officials, not necessarily for their own personal use, but for the use of the city. We have had a practice in the city as if an employee, because we looked at ourselves as a family unit, and if we had an employee who had an emergency, who needed to use a vehicle for a particular time frame, it was allowed. They were city employees, and these are city vehicles. We have had that practice since I became a commissioner here, and if we want to look at making sure or making changes to that particular practice that have been long-standing since the city has been in operation, I assume, then we as a commission need to look at best practices for us moving forward. So if the commission needs to make that decision that is no longer, and we no longer look at staff as being members of this collective family, and we want to not have them have vehicles or be able to use it for emergency purposes, or elected officials cannot use vehicles for whatever reason, then we as a commission need to have that discussion. But for me, it has been a long-standing practice. I haven't seen on my end any issues with it. Thank you.
Commissioner Miller, it is now your question. Do you want me to repeat the question? Okay, this goes on, I feel like it goes along with the lines of integrity. What is your position on the use of city vehicles for personal use, and how will you track the use of city vehicles? 2 minutes.
Yeah, we've had some issues for me personally as the use of city vehicles. The police department, that is part of their employment package, is to be able to take home a police cruiser to make sure that when they're on call, that they will be able to get back to the city. When it comes to other workers using city vehicles, I am not in favor of. If we have inclement weather, I could see an employee who is essential would be able to get back to work. They could take home the night before and come back the next day in inclement weather. If if an elected official needs to use a vehicle, I feel that if you come to the city and you use a vehicle to go to a meeting, that's fine, and you bring that vehicle back. we do not need to take vehicles home because we have our own vehicles. And other municipalities use that same standard, that they use the vehicle during the meeting, go to a meeting, and return that vehicle back to their respective city. But I am not in favor of everybody using city vehicles, and staff either, because you think about the liability if they get into an accident, and we've had some issues with that. So I am not in favor of that. Thank you.
The next question, I actually have seen this question a number of times, and I just kind of wanted to ask a more broader question earlier, but now that we've gotten into more specific question, I think it's fair to put this on the table. Since many residents have put questions forward about the disputes between commissioners, and so one of the things that they want to ask is, will you be willing to invite, and we're going to start with you, Commissioner Miller, since you start answering the question first for this question. Will you be willing to invite the community into commission disputes for mediation? So, your question first, 2 minutes.
If we follow the policies and procedures that we actually took an oath for as a commissioner and a mayor, we shouldn't have any issues at all. But we need to make sure that people understand that if we're not abreast of something that's coming to a meeting to be presented, or someone invited to a meeting to present, and we have no knowledge, of course that's like a surprise and some friction going on, because it's like, why couldn't you send me an email? Why couldn't you call me? I think we need to work on our communication skills, because it just seems as though the acting mayor feels as though that he does not have to follow protocol. And protocol means that if you need a special meeting, you need to notify us in a timely manner and give some dates and some times. You don't do the day before and give us a time and a date, which is the next day. That is very frustrating, because even if you're on a job, you're like, okay, I can't get that done right away. How am I going to prepare for this meeting? So we have incurred a lot of these surprise meetings that we are not prepared for, and then people think that we can't work together. But it's protocol and procedures. Put it out there first, and let us decide how can we come together and be prepared instead of surprised all the time. But I think we need to do that first before bringing in an outside person. Thank you.
Okay, let me first say this. Now, we did have the rule that if you name the person has 1 minute to respond, but in this case, you went first, but you do have 2 minutes to respond because you responded to the question. So please incorporate your response to anything she said within your 2 minutes. No, it'll be 2 minutes. I'm sorry?
If she mentioned
Well, the 1 minute was for rebuttal. So if you are going to do, so we will give you your 2 minutes, and in light of the fact that we did have the 1 minute, and in fact that you're going response, we can do 2 minutes and half, but a full 3 minutes I think would not be fair in light of the fact that it's not a rebuttal, as in you're not responding. Okay? So we can go.
Ask the question again, please. Ask the question.
That's totally fine. How will you invite the community into commission disputes? And this is in light of the question earlier about just the addressing disputes between the commissioners. Will you invite the community into commission disputes and mediation?
I would invite independent bodies, because it's been obvious for a while that with the last mayor, this commission body has not been able to really come together and make some decisions collectively. There seems to be sometimes a lot of finger pointing, and the work hasn't been done. And so one of the things I want to make sure I do as the mayor is to make sure we focus on the work first and not personal vendettas or personal issues that have nothing to do with the work at hand or the citizens. Because the mass majority of the citizens are focusing on what are we doing for the city and how are we getting the work done. Not petty differences, not whether we don't like each other or whether we don't share the same views. It's obvious that Commissioner Miller and I have different frames of thought, but sometimes we have to get other people involved in order to resolve that, and that's with simple mediation. Bringing an outside source to see what we can do, how we can agree, how we can move forward, because we are elected to do the will of the people. So if someone has to come in and who is an independent resource to help us, to help and assist us move our city forward, then that is the best course of action. Not necessarily having residents come in, but an independent body where there is no bias on either side to help us move our agenda forward as a commission. So that is one of the things that we need to do swiftly so we can move our city forward. Thank you, Wallace. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I don't really, this is not necessarily the point in time for name calling or pointing fingers. My thing again, I have a stake in this city. And my stake in this city is to do the job that you appointed me and elected me to do for the last 3 years. So if you watch proof of work and proof of stake, the work has been evident in the things that I have done. I could name easily 13 things that I've done in the city over the last 3 years, easily, to help sustain our city. I don't think anyone else in this room can stay the same. So this is not a rebuttal to that. Just watch the work that is being done.
Okay, since Commissioner Miller was named in the response, you have 1 minute to respond.
I go back to policies and procedures. As mayor and commission, we have a way in which we communicate to come together. No, it's not about attitudes. It's about how you present what it is that we're talking about, what is going to be on the agenda, making sure that we get this information in a timely manner, that we are talking as a group and not talked at. We need to work on that. If we do the policies and procedures, we wouldn't even have this issue. Making sure that the meetings are agreed upon. If we have a scheduled meeting, make sure it's that date and that time, and then we will be prepared. But to constantly give us no notice, no preparation, and making it seem as though we're not working together, that's not fair to us, because we all work hard, and we all want to make this city great and continue to make it great. Thank you.
Okay, it seems a lot of questions about sort of accountability among commissioners. So this will be the last question we have on that, because we have gotten a couple questions, but I do think this is important. It seems to be important to residents because we've gotten multiple questions on it. And specifically, this is about ensuring that commissioners and everyone is attending. So, Commissioner Miller, I'm going to turn this over to you since you will be answering. No, wait. Did you answer? I think you answered the question first last time. So we're going to start with Acting Mayor Medlock. So Acting Mayor Medlock, we are going to start with you. How will you ensure that commissioners are attending meetings, are acting moral, how will you ensure that commissioners are attending meetings and acting morally? And you can answer the question in 2 minutes.
Absolutely. Making sure that they attend meetings is their job. I can't babysit my commission, but I can ask them, as I do, as the chair of the commission, I set the agenda for the commission. And in the light of COVID, there's a lot of changes. We have to be able to move swiftly and to pivot when needed. And this has happened over the last 3 months. So I have asked the commission to do things sometimes that are slightly different. Sometimes the schedule has changed. We met 3 times before the COVID, but now we meet once or twice. And I asked the commission to work with them, call each other, and to make sure that we stay in contact. That has not happened. But what we're gonna do is go back to ground zero. We're gonna work on getting this done as a commission. I can't control their morality. I cannot dictate that. But I can control the schedule, and I will hope that the commission will abide by the rules and regulations set forth by our guidelines, by our charter, to do your job. So if the meeting changed from 7 to 3, be there at 3. We all have a responsibility to our stakeholders and to our residents, elected officials, to our city. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Miller, this was your question. Do you want me to repeat the question? And of course, this will be the last question along this line, but we have received many questions today on this. How would you address commissioners attending meetings and acting morally? How would you, as mayor, address that issue?
As mayor, I will go with the policies and procedures, but I also know that there are some emergencies that come up. But I feel that we do not get enough notice to prepare if there is a change. We just get an email from the city manager saying that there's a meeting tomorrow at 3. And so it's like you're at the end of the day and you already have something scheduled. Yeah, we're here to do the work. We're here. And I've always been here since 2014 doing the work. But when you have a leader or acting leader just mandating the agenda, we submit agenda items to discuss on how we can move the city forward in certain projects. And when they get ignored, completely ignored, and no response on why it didn't make it on the agenda, that's troubling. Because if you're saying we need to work together, why isn't it that our agenda items never get on the agenda? But then when we get notice that it's a meeting the next day at a different time, how are we to scramble to make things work? So as mayor, I want to make sure that we give people enough time based on what we already have our scheduled meetings, but we come to a consensus. It should not be forced upon us. We should be able to sit together and decide when we're going to take care of the business of this great city. Thank you.
In light of that, thank you for your answer. And I want to say that it is in light of the fact that you implicated or mentioned the leader, which would be Acting Mayor Medlock. You have 1 minute to respond.
We have to consider, we talk about not having enough time. That is actually totally untrue. The information that has to be put out is 24 hours so the residents know. So the commission knows in advance. I think there's a problem with communication, and there always has been, but we are working on that. If we are willing to, we can get things done. We have to be quick and responsive through this COVID crisis. So yes, there are some things that change overnight, and we have to be able to be nimble and agile in order to make that happen. I ask for it of myself, and it's an expectation of my commission as well. Once we're out of this pandemic, then we can make some normal decisions, but we have to be ready to do the job that we were put here to do. And I'm willing to continue to do that job and be agile for the residents of District Heights.
All right. So we're on the hour. We're now at almost 7:45. So we have a last question, but in light of some of the big concerns that we have today, and in light of a pandemic, other issues, I think that this question is really timely. So I'm going to ask this question, and of course, we're going to start, and I think before, because I know we did it with the rebuttal. Okay, well, it looks like we've got more questions. We did a rebuttal here, but I do believe this time we're starting with Commissioner Miller. Or is it, I'm sorry, losing my thought. Is it Commissioner Miller, did you start first? Okay, so if you started first the last time, we'll start with Active Mayor Medlock on this one. Okay, so the question goes, with recent events, when we talk about the COVID-19 pandemic, the storms, how will you as mayor address any emergency plans for the city?
Absolutely, thank you so much. Once the COVID happened, once again, this happened in March, we had to think very quickly on our proper response to COVID. This is something that no one has dealt with ever, and this is something that grips not only our county and city, but our state and the country as a whole. And the response was to go into a stage 3 closing. And because I have 38% senior population, and which are the most vulnerable here with COVID, it was a choice to make sure that we protected our citizens from this deadly disease. And as the mayor, I will continue to respond in kind by listening, understanding, and seeing what the pulse of our community is. The county went to a phase 2 closing. We're still in phase 3 of our closing. It's because we have a unique population of seniors who have to be protected. And I, as a leader within the city, cannot jeopardize the lives of the most vulnerable for any reason whatsoever. So as the commission continues to look at and evaluate information based on the county, state, and local governments, we're going to make the right choices. And as mayor, I will continue to make the right choices for our residents in our unique situation.
Commissioner Miller, will be your question. Do you want me to ask the question again? Okay. In light of the recent events, COVID-19 pandemic, how will you as mayor address emergencies such like this? What is your plan to address emergencies? 2 minutes.
First of all, I would make sure that I inform the residents on how we are operating in the city and in the building. We were the only municipality to be at a stage 3 closing, in which that was not a full vote. We should have never been in a stage 3 closing. We should have been in line with the other municipalities. So now we have municipalities that are closed to the public, but they've already made changes in their workplace where staff can come to work and social distance. We haven't even made it to that yet because we haven't even had a meeting to discuss what are the next plans. And so we've been waiting for a meeting where we can have a discussion on what those plans look like. We have the funding now to make sure that the staff and residents are safe, but there has not been a meeting called to come together to make sure that we're doing the right thing instead of just sitting and waiting for the county. Municipalities operate differently because we don't have the cash flow like the county. So we have to spend our dollars smart. And just to be closed with no signage through the city or around the building, I mean, residents are at a loss. And so we need to make sure, and as mayor, I would make sure that that message gets out to you in a timely manner. Thank you.
We are now at, closing. So each candidate has 5 minutes to give their closing statements in light of the questions asked today. Because we started with Acting Mayor Medlock before, we are going to start in closing with Commissioner Miller. So I will start, you have 5 minutes and with your closing statements.
become a commissioner in 2014, I thought about what can I do for my community. I leave my house in the city of District Heights every day to go to a job to give my boss my best, working 12 hours a day. And at the end of the day, I come back home to my community and I see that we need some help. We need to be more involved as residents. And so I decided as a commissioner to commit my public service to this city. And I have done things that, they just come to you. If it's gonna make our city better, I'm gonna do it. And I've been here. I haven't left. So moving us forward, I ran on For the People in 2014. That was my slogan, For the People. Now I am committed to our city. And I want you to know that I am definitely committed. I am your cheerleader. I will be your mayor, and I will protect you, and I will make sure that I make the sound decisions to move us forward. Let's do it together. Under my leadership as mayor, District Heights, accountability, transparency is what you will receive at all times. Do not let our past dictate our future. As I walk through the city campaigning, I see these houses that are beautiful, the landscaping, the love that you put in your homes, in your landscaping. It's a wonder why you're getting calls and letters every day in the mail asking, we want to buy your home. Guess what? You know why? Because they know we have a great city with great homes. So if you want to move forward, vote for me, because we are on the move. City on the move. Don't let anybody distract you. We can fix these problems, but we have to be invested in how we're going to move our city forward. The city of District Heights is a beautiful city. And I'm willing to put more work in because you all deserve it. Your tax dollars, you all deserve it. You need to have your own magazine because we are beautiful. We have residents with great professions, retired from great careers. We have millennials that are doing great things. We have music, we have theater. We need to make sure that we have more STEM programs. Of course, we have basketball, volleyball, and football. But let's think about how we can move our city forward in a different manner. Take ownership. Don't walk away. Let's move it forward. And as your mayor, I will definitely be there for you at all times. Thank you, and vote for Cynthia Miller. Thanks.
All right, Acting Mayor Medlock, 5 minutes, closing.
Thank you so much, Wallace, for moderating this event. Thank you very much for all the time that you've spent in our community serving our residents and the residents of Prince George's County. I would like to thank all the residents that came out in these conditions to be a part of this forum because it was so important that you be here. And for those who are online, thank you very much for being here. We are eternally grateful. I also would like to thank Commissioner Miller for her service and what she has done for and with the city of District Heights. Thank you for that. As we move forward, one of the things that I always tell people, when I came to District Heights, the first thing I did was go to District Heights Elementary and knock on the door and ask the principal to give me something to do. Let me work with our children and let them see me doing something. I said I would paint the walls or sweep the floors, but I wanted our young men and women to see a black man working. So as I continued to do that in the school, I began to mentor the children around me every single day. I was an example of what leadership looked like. I consider myself a coach and not a cheerleader. I consider myself the head of something that I do, whatever it may be, and not someone that will take a backseat for anybody as it relates to the citizens here in District Heights. Yes, I have the support of many elected officials here in the county. Yes, I have much support from many District Heights residents, and I appreciate and love you for it. But I'm more grateful to those who have pushed me and prodded me forward here in the city of District Heights. One of the things I think about too is, when I came here, it was a few people. I remember Jamal Miller and Miss Sarah Johnson, Terry Spade, and there's a host of others in the community who have poured into me. And this is the result. Being your commissioner, being your vice mayor, and now being your acting mayor. This has to go to the work that has been done for these many years. And though I've been on the commission, or as a vice mayor or acting mayor, shorter time than anyone on this commission, I have done the work that you have put me here to do. And I'm asking that you continue to support the work that I have done and keep me in this position for the next 2 years to continue to move our city forward. One of my rallying cries was forward ever and backwards never. It's a nationalistic, Garveyite understanding when we cannot go backwards, but we always have to move forward. And I want to say that everybody, that we have to move forward together. One thing that cannot be misconstrued, and that is spirit, and that's intent. You know my spirit is pure, and my intent is for the city of District Heights. And we're not talking about feelings, we're talking about facts. So we base our understanding on what the facts are. You will make the right vote when you go into that ballot. So I'm saying, and I'm asking humbly for the citizens of District Heights to allow me to continue to do the job that you put me here to do. Understand that you will get with that trustworthiness, transparency, and transformational leadership to help move our city steady forward. If you allow me to do that, I promise you I will give you the best of me. The same intent that I've given to the national security, I will give to you. I am focused, and I'm dedicated, and I'm ready to continue to lead the city of District Heights. So I ask you, District Heights, to place me, to put me, to value me enough to vote for me on July 13th here in the city of District Heights. So if you haven't placed your ballots, please come out to vote and vote for Medlock. Thank you so much, and I love you, District Heights.
I would like us in this time to thank both candidates. Thank you, Commissioner Miller. Thank you, Acting Mayor Medlock. And a hand of applause for both of our candidates. They did so well today. Thank you. And as I said before at the beginning of this forum, I said you all are blessed. We're looking at two candidates who have expressed their vision today, but they understand and know all of the issues that are going on with this city. So now it is your decision. For those on Zoom, thank you for participating. We have quite a bit of participation on Zoom. Thank you all for your participation. I want to thank Susie, our volunteer here. Susie, raise your hand. Thank you so much for getting questions and, making sure that we hold everyone accountable and that, we make sure that this is transparent process. And I want to thank all of you that took your time to come here because I know this is true engagement. This is a sacrifice for many of you all to come out. So hand clap to you for taking the time to come out of your houses in the middle of a pandemic and show civic engagement. That is amazing. So I wanted to just give a reminder of the election because we do want to make sure everyone, now that you know what your candidates stand for or what the candidates stand for, that you can engage. Just a reminder, your request for an application for an absentee ballot, actually that was due on July 6th. So you may request an emergency absentee ballot from the city clerk if needed. In order for your vote to count, all ballots must be received by Monday, July 13th, no later than 5 p.m. at the city clerk's office. In-person elections will occur on July 13th from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. All safety precautions will be in effect and include the use of personal protective equipment and social distancing of 6 feet. No more than 10 voters are allowed in a polling area at a time. Thank you all for your engagement. Today was amazing and smooth, and we look forward to you voting on July 13th. Thank you.